welcome to Upstage Downstage, with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing Here and Now. We saw this production at Alexandra Theatre, Birmingham, on the 22nd of November 2024. Happiness is only a heartbeat away with Here and Now, the hilarious and heartwarming new musical based on the songs of the multi-million selling pop phenomenon Steps. Directed by the award-winning Rachel Kavanagh and written by Sean Kitchener, Here and Now features many of Steps' iconic hits, including 5, 6, 7, 8, Better Best Forgotten, and Last Thing on My Mind. This brand new musical is produced by Steps themselves. So Richard, what's it all about?
Welcome to Seaside Superstore Better Best Bargains, where it's Friday night, the vibe is right and everyone's dancing in the aisles. But when Kaz discovers the shelves are stocked with lies and betrayal, the summer of love she and her friends dreamed of suddenly feels like a tragedy. Have they all lost their chance of a happy ever after? With Kaz, Val, Nita and Robbie around, who knows what love has in store?
But first, our post-show opinion!
This was definitely glittering gold.
Here and Now's got a hold on my heart.
So with all that said, let's
Set the scene!
So Richard, would you like to set the scene for Here and Now?
Well, I didn't know whether to set the scene or get my shopping done.
I mean, yes, you could, couldn't you?
But, I mean, it looked
Better
closed,
Best
to be
Buys.
fair. Who doesn't love Better Best Bargains? I mean,
Well,
you've
it's
got
not
to have
better
a good rummage.
Ooh.
So, all jokes aside,
I won't
the
call them
s-
jokes.
Well, this set is basically a bargain supermarket. But we were just presented with the outside door where it's clearly shut, and we were waiting for the opening hours.
Yeah, I think Home Bargains.
Yeah, definitely. But by the seaside.
Yes, by the seaside. On the pier.
On the pier.
On the pier.
Yeah, so basically, the easiest way to describe the set was the tabs at the side of the stage were all basically Billy bookcases.
Basically.
Better Best Bargains Billy bookcases.
Oh, alliteration.
Yeah, just
Maybe
like
stack
that.
'em.
5 in a row. And they were all stacked with blue and pink products, very similar to the colour coding of all the set and the staging and everything. But there was everything you could think of, from tins to washing up powder, washing like liquid fabric softener, and everything you could think of. There was even eggs at the top and stuff like that. So
This is on the perimeter.
yeah, just on
isn't it?
both
Yeah.
sides of the stage and right at the front in the proscenium arch as well. So it was like, so right at the top of the stage there was across the proscenium were aisle numbers, and there was aisle number 5, 6, 7, and 8, and it was a curious choice of numbers, wasn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, what happened to 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do the half price hoedown if it wasn't 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, and you just got what looked like treadmills as the
It's the conveyor belt tills.
yeah, they
had
looked
4
like
of them.
conveyor belts, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, they look like treadmills, like as you said.
Yeah, and then they just got the Better Best Bargains logo, 3Bs wrapped round a very Steps-looking branding.
Not like proper tills either, just like
No.
makeshift tills.
Yeah,
which
they got
are easy to take off.
Yeah, and they got
Chip
electric.
and pin.
They got drawers in them with the pull-out till, basically,
Mm.
with the tablet screen ones that you can get now, the
Yeah.
more modern ones,
Yeah.
which work well, I
Which
think.
you probably wouldn't find in a shop, though.
No, but you're doing a lot of the smaller bargain
Yeah, the
shops.
smaller ones,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
I think we've set the scene, to be
Yeah,
fair.
I think we've done well. And sorry, the floor was basically a tiled shop floor with just accents of blue and pink throughout it, just to reflect the rest of the stage. So actually, the stage was very strong in its colour scheme. There wasn't really any moment where it dropped that aesthetic. I think that's another key thing to.
You struggled with that with your holes in your mouth.
I did, yeah. Aesthetic was a big word.
You'd already seen this before, but when I came to see it, I assumed because I didn't know anything about it. I assumed it was these people, a group of people,
Yep.
5 of them,
Yep.
working at a checkout, working on the checkouts at a store, and they were going to become the next band. I thought that's what it was. I thought it was a story of steps or something like that kind of a way. So I completely missed the first section when they were talking about the adoption. It kind of went over my head because I thought, oh, they're going to get in. Oh, is someone like, they released a demo? Are they going to have a meeting with Pete Waterman or something like that?
Stephen's writing mind had gone off in his own little world.
Yeah, I was just rewriting it into a different thing entirely. So then when they hit the first song, or the first main opening number, the Stomp, they started off with this pact as to what they wanted to achieve by the time Kaz got to 40.
And they got to
wasn't it? Was it
50.
50. So they all wanted to achieve something by that cut-off period, which was a great way of setting up the play in terms of story structure, that they've all got to achieve something. I completely missed the whole situation of Kaz wanting to adopt. I think certain things just went over my head because I think I missed what it was actually referenced. I mean, you've seen it 5 times.
4 times. 4. Come on, get it right. I've seen it 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
So they all wanted different things. So Kaz wanted to adopt with her partner.
Yeah.
But we later find out that her partner actually doesn't want to be with her anymore, and he leaves. We have Nita on the checkouts who secretly fancies Ben, but won't say anything, so she needs to make sure that she tells him how she feels.
And she struggles with that all the way through.
All the way through, yes. And then we have Vel. She wants to break it off with her partner.
Yeah.
Who actually, when she does do that, well, she doesn't. He actually breaks it off with her, and she's really relieved at that. But she's going on her own little journey of sort of self-discovery and what's repressed within her and who she actually wants to be with.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually does have feelings for. And then you have Robbie, who actually likes someone.
Yeah.
But fears commitment.
Yeah. But also is a young guy that's flitting around having fun, basically.
Yeah.
In a roundabout way. Kaz wanted him to settle down and actually get into it, find love, really.
Yeah.
So basically, each 4 of the main 4 characters, Kaz, Vel, Nita, and Robbie, all make a pineapple pact to do all these things by the time Kaz turns 50 at the end of summer. And then what we see from this is everybody works through those storylines. Everybody works through what happens, and not everything goes to how it's laid out in the pact. It's not all perfect. And what they expect doesn't always happen in the order they expect it either.
How did you feel overall with the direction of this one? Throwing the choreography for good measure.
We talk a lot about in the past with scene changes, set changes, people being involved on stage, stage hands moving things. Well, the supporting cast moved everything around the main cast, so you felt like everybody was on stage, was involved in this piece, and it was choreographed to and sort of directed to focus mainly on the main 4 characters. Yeah. And I felt like everything else was reinforcing that a lot of the time. Even when Kaz, Nita, Vel and Robbie were in their own little part, when they did the Pineapple Pact, you got to know them as characters to care about them enough to know that you were going to follow their lives. I felt like even though the stage was quite big, it was directed in a way that you were focused on those characters quite a lot. So you were drawn back to that central point almost.
Yeah, they were the core of the production, the family of the shop.
Yeah.
And I felt they did use the stage really well, not just out the front, because that's when it started, just this little conversation out the front.
Yeah, exactly.
And then which we forgot to mention, they had tabs come down with the outside of the shop where the sliding doors opened. And then once they went through, it then lifted up to inside
the main
shop. And then those tabs got moved around to the back and dropped.
Yeah.
So it then cut the staging up, so we were then at the back looking into the shop.
Yeah, exactly.
So they messed around with the staging and got people using it all over the place. So it wasn't just static to the one section or a couple of sections. They did fully utilise the staging well, particularly in the song "Last Thing on My Mind," by going through the aisles and moving those around. And then when you mentioned about the Valentine's section, and the part where it was a Valentine's section, they brought that out up on the top. So they had on the stage right at the back, they brought in a section where it was fruit and veg. Then later on, up stage left, they brought in a section where it was a Valentine's section of hearts and chocolates and Teds. And then another section later on, in a dance number, they brought out the deep freezers, the tall freezers that they came out in the centre as well. So they did move around the set quite a lot with just apparatus and furniture just on wheels, moving things around. So it was directed really well, and as well with the choreography was quite good. Because, I mean, I kept thinking when they were like just jumping onto the conveyor belt, the cashier tills, the conveyor belt things. It's like, oh my God, they're going to move, they're going to fall off or something, because they didn't look.
And one thing I saw as well, which was quite useful in the cashier tills, they'd also got a cupboard in them, a big hole in the side of the tills where they put the chairs in that they were sat on, so that they were always on stage when they needed them, but they got somewhere to store them and quickly get them off and out of the way.
Yeah.
But also there was the other scene where you went into Patricia's office, but that was done in such a pace that it's like the stage swooped round. All the cast were involved in it, and they almost milled the cast and the sort of shop workers all milled around and walked off in such a smooth motion that then Kaz is sitting down in the office in such a smart motion that
she was pushed on, weren't she?
Yeah,
and the thing. When it's done like that, you don't notice a scene change.
No, exactly.
And that's why things like that are really clever. What you don't want is to see people bringing things on and taking up too much time where it's noticeable. You just want to go from one scene to the next the next rapidly.
It was like that the little bit after Half Price Hoedown where they had that little dance break in front while the set's being moved around behind them, but they'd focus the lights on the front part of the stage, so you saw people moving, but you just saw that.
It's a distraction technique, isn't it? So this is what we're doing at the back.
And they did a similar thing in the scene with the Valentine's Day scene where they had two shop workers. One gave the other one a bunch of flowers to sort of initiate a asking somebody out scene mimed, but that was just happening while everything else was being changed and scene changed. But it was short enough to not go over the top, and it worked really, really nicely. So, and those scenes matter when you're doing something quite fast paced as a musical, and you've got to get scene to scene to scene, really. And I think that.
But also, it helps to advance the plot because you can just throw in that thing of giving somebody flowers and then receiving it and going off happy jolly. But that's like a plot point of moving that storyline.
Yeah,
on.
Exactly.
So you don't have to be bogged down with a whole scene of chatter. You could just do it visually in like 15 seconds during a musical number with everybody else, so you still advance the plot.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one thing that does spring to mind a great deal with all of this, the direction bit, it was the chain reaction thing. I think the most funniest thing. It's really hard to say that, but it was quite iconic for River Medway just turning the washing machine on and then not grinding on it, but she was vibrating on it.
Yeah, you make me tremble when my hand moves lower and the washing machine moving around.
Yeah,
and this is after she's
but in the whole play, that's the one thing I just
still get every time you look at a washing machine.
Makes me tickle.
And this is just after she's entered in a freezer, wrapped in a freezer bag, being defrosted by hairdryers. We got all the silly elements. All the comedy and the humour within it was really.
It stems from a good place.
Yeah.
And nothing felt forced.
No, exactly.
And the jokes were even up to date and very witty one-liners. There was quite a lot of witty one-liners.
There were, yeah.
I suppose down to earth as well, just to add in.
Yes, there were.
Because you can get some musicals where it just either goes over your head or can be just a bit too, like, a different class system.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, whereas this, because it was down to earth, supermarket checkouts, the humour was very much that level.
It was very much...
I don't want to say, like, basic,
no.
It didn't overcomplicate things, so it felt more... relatable.
Yeah, but also relatable for a wider audience, and I think that's important for this because I went on the first night of the production with my family. So my dad's 73, my sister's 35, and we all laughed. So for me, that shows that anybody that went would find some humour within it, and it's quite interesting because I can see this being this is a musical that's a bit of a crossover for those that don't go to theatre but know about Steps. And this is one that when it tours next year, I can see it selling well because it does cross over quite nicely. That, like you said, relatable. It will be watched by people that might not go to theatre but might have seen a panto. It's got the similar thing where, like, Mamma Mia's written in the same structure where it's, yes, ABBA's songs are used in it, but the storylines, you know, it's not the same storyline as this, but in structure it's very similar in the sense of I'm a daughter who doesn't know who her dad is. She's got 3 dads. Which one is my dad? The mum doesn't know. It's just a comedy element all the way through it. Very similar in, like, it's a core group of 4 or 5 people in the middle, and the storyline, you know, that it's quite linear. There's not a lot more that goes off apart from the trials and tribulations of that relationship. So it's very similar in structure to how this has been written.
Well, talking about the structure of this one, seemingly going into this is a really good example of how to properly structure a play.
Yeah.
And not just a play, just a musical, because you have the opening number which sets up the main storyline. So you start with Kaz being told that she's been accepted to adopt.
Yeah.
Now, whilst we have her trials and tribulations throughout, at the very end, they mirror that. So you'll know when a play is going to finish, when that last thread is tied up.
Yeah.
Near the end, where everyone had managed to do their whole golden pineapple thing, you know, where they've got what they wanted, or some didn't, or they've experienced something completely different. At the very end of it, I was waiting for this. What's she going to do about this adoption thing?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
how's it gonna happen?
Exactly.
What's gonna go
So
on?
when they did, like, near the end, she then touched upon that, and I thought, okay, so that's tied everything up.
Yeah.
We're at the end. Where's the final?
End. Yeah, this is the final moment.
Final number. It's weird when you can see shows like that.
Yeah.
Where you see all the plot points, because once you know the plot points and where things are and hitting the beats, you sort of know when the interval's going to be.
Yeah.
You know full well that they're going to start with the best number, which was Tragedy, because it's a one that energizes everyone's spirits from the interval, gets them back in the mood. So it has to be that the biggest hit. We saw it with Here Comes Dolly, or Here She Comes Again musical, where it was 9 to 5.
Yeah,
9 to 5 straight in again. You know, so it's these little techniques that people use to get you interested, to move the plot along, and so on and so forth.
One thing I think we discussed afterwards was there must have been so much work. You've got to understand sort of Steps as music and the words that they use to then shoehorn that into a musical, because they weren't written for a musical. So you've got to really work almost with the songs to find out what part is who going to sing, or what part of that song is who is going to matter to the storyline. Or
I suppose what you'd do, which I think I probably discussed with you in the car, is you'd analyse every Steps song, and you put a post-it note thinking, what is this about? What this song is actually about, and what it could be.
Yeah, exactly.
And then once you've worked out all the songs and what they actually mean, you can then think, what storyline do I get out of this?
Yeah, where could this go?
What could I get? You know, what does this song work for that plot beat, or would that be for somebody else's character?
Yeah, exactly.
And it isn't until you put them all together thinking, well, this is about... I don't know, a breakup, or not wanting to break up or something. You can work out then what songs would suit which character, how many characters you'd need.
Yeah.
And you'd structure some kind of storyline out of those roughly, and then once you're happy with that, you can then add in the flavours and extra little bits and bobs of referencing the world of steps within it.
Yeah, because it was funny because there was a few moments where even if they didn't use the full song or any of the song, they referenced some of the words out of a song,
or sang
or
a
the
little
lyric.
line or two.
Yeah, a little bit that, you know, like the Paradise Lost bit where it was Ben sweeping the floor like he's humming a tune to himself, and the avid fans of Steps know Paradise Lost because it was never released, and you know, people know that was a song that was always around, and it's that nice little link when you know that the writer and the creative team must have known that we need to get these little things in as little references to things that are in the world. And also, this sort of nicely brings on to the fact that Sean Kitchener, actually the writer, was somebody that wrote a Steps musical in 2017 called 5678, and it was just done in the upstairs at the Gatehouse in London. And I know through friends that I've got in London that it actually sold out pretty much every night, and they all keep talking about it even before this came out as a musical. Now, somebody actually saw him do that, and then, what are we now, 7 years later? He's asked to write the musical for Steps themselves. So what a sort of turnaround moment from doing something that was actually a small little parody of little like, you know, project to actually be asked to do the real one. So, you know, and they picked the right writer because he's done a good job with it.
But if you were to compare this to Now That's What I Call a Musical, which is based on songs again, you can see the huge disconnect that Now That's What I Call a Musical is.
Completely.
Instead of them just focusing on the music, on that one, they just went here, there and everywhere on different tangents and being so random.
But interestingly,
whereas this one, it's all relatable to itself.
Yeah, and also, interestingly, something also that we've just talked about is the work that's done on the lyrics. In Now That's What I Call a Musical, a lot of the musical numbers were scene changes.
Yeah.
They weren't actually part of... They weren't intertwined in the actual scenes. They weren't part of the lyrics, or they weren't part of the storyline. They were just pretty much shoehorned in. They weren't
Video
actually,
Killed the Radio Star. That was just a random add-in just because it was a big hit.
Yeah, and it was just to change it to another scene, really, to the flat. It was just really random. It didn't really have any link. So you could tell that they'd almost just got a list of songs given to them and these ones we can use. You can pick these. And that was it, really, rather than spending the time like this had, where you could tell that everything, even, you know, I'll go back.
And this is why this works.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mamma Mia works.
Exactly that.
The Officer and the Gentleman didn't work.
No, and that had the same sort of treatment. And Juliet does this as well. You know, a long time ago I did an episode about that. We're going to see it on the tour at some point. But that does the same as this as well, where it's all Max Martin songs and they intertwine them into the actual wording of the script. But it's like, last thing on my mind, that's a fine example of how they used one song to depict the falling apart of a relationship, because that was a duet in the end, really. And it was such a funny way to do a duet. And that song wasn't written as a duet, like it wasn't written as a falling out song. But it's the other thing I'd say about a lot of Steps' songs, if you actually look at their back catalogue, a lot of their songs are about breaking up. Because when they were out in the heyday in the 90s, S Club 7 was singing songs about getting back together. Steps were singing songs about breaking up. That's why they both were out at the same time and were both successful, because they were both not competing. They were both singing things that on the polar opposites. So it's very interesting when you look back at how two big pop bands in Britain can coexist almost. So you've got a lot of material to use, which is really good.
I suppose those kind of topics feed into the teenage narrative of getting your first boyfriend or girlfriend and then breaking up and that drama. You don't want anything heavy or anything.
No.
Well, they don't tend to go for anything heavy. Or
No, exactly.
Little songs about things that are too complex.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's and it's instantly relatable, and I think that's why, you know, let's face it, most of the people that go to see Steps concert now are people that were there in the 90s seeing that and part of that world. So, sometimes you need musicals to take your mind away from reality and be actually a bit of fun for once. Because I think sometimes everything can get a bit serious in the world, and so can theatre, so can musicals, plays, this, that and the other. This sits in a place that you can just have a decent night and just enjoy it,
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're
Here for the drama.
Overall, I felt that this was wonderfully cast. Every actor or actress hit their part really well.
Yeah, they did. I think each one was individual in nature, including the dancers as well, the sort of supporting cast, as it were. All the shop assistants, they all had genuine looks. It wasn't like everybody had to look a certain way, or everybody felt like everybody got personality, which for this you need that in all the performances, because you could tell there was a couple of people in the cast that were ready to take on the other person's role if needed for understudy and this, that and the other. However, they all still had their own unique look. They weren't looking exactly identical as the main cast. So it worked really, really strongly, I thought.
Yeah, we always see that, don't we? I think the last musical we talked about, Dear Evan Hansen, we saw the similar people as the backups.
yeah, you know that they're somewhere.
Artists.
Yeah, just in case.
They're just eager to take that. To that spotlight. I felt hats off to Rebecca Locke as Kaz, because not just her singing voice, but her portrayal, her comic timing was just everything on this, and she just nailed everything right. And she comes across as a Claire.
She does
as well.
Yeah, she does, definitely. But she's also she knew how to work the audience and pause when she needed to make sure her lines were delivered and delivered well, and everything was wrapped up well, and she knew how to perform to an audience, and I think that matters.
Yes.
But also come across as like they were a big family. She felt like the mother figure. She felt she had that
presence.
Yeah, that presence, that's the word. Yeah. See, I've got some big words in there, see? Mm-hmm. Christmas presents.
It's coming up to Christmas, isn't it? So.
A bit like Nita as well, where she was just on the edge and just...
She played nervous and really shy,
a bit
extremely
scatty,
well.
a bit, but also very encouraging as well.
I think with that, because it was a musical and it covered quite a lot of storylines, and it did so really well, you never got too much in depth with Nita and Robbie, I'd say.
No.
You got their characteristics. You could definitely tell them apart from the others as well. And I have to say, this musical, I don't know if it's benefited, but it does feature River Medway, who's a well-known drag artist.
Yeah.
And a bit like Sunita in the dreaded, now that's what I call a musical.
Yeah.
And not just Sunita, it was Carol Decker and Sonia. Yes. Now, the use of River Medway was clever in the fact that they incorporated a drag artist.
Yeah, exactly.
And it didn't have to be just River Medway. It could be anybody else,
exactly,
any other drag artist as well.
Yeah.
So that was quite good that they didn't just focus on that particular performer.
Yeah, exactly.
And whilst I thought slightly underused in the first half, he more than made up for it in the second half.
Yeah, and
because he had more of a performance. Because we'd seen him in Unfortunate. I keep wanting to say Ursula.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
But he played Ariel really, really well.
Yeah, he did
as well.
Yeah, I think as well the way that they wrote the character in was to have almost, because we didn't have many interactions with supporting customers. There wasn't many interactions with them, with customers, apart from in the background, or this was the only real main interaction with a customer that featured within the storyline. You know, that so I can see why they wrote it in like that to sort of get that character in, because it actually felt quite strong. But it was quite nice. It's like you said about Robbie's character as well. I felt that we could tell, even in the short time we got to know Robbie, he was older beyond his years a little bit because of what he'd been through in his life. So you knew there was something going off, but you didn't actually know what. You just knew there was something until you got into the second half and you found out there was a bit more to his character, and it was quite. But I thought, I thought they portrayed those characters very well. And Vel, I mean, Vel was brilliant.
Yeah, she was. She had that underlying comic timing and just the typical comic character that's just naturally funny.
Yeah, from the first moment of picking up the tannoy
Yeah,
and delivering
very
deadpan
droll.
lies.
Yeah,
You can't do that if you don't know what you're doing. It's just so...
she was incredible.
So to the point and on time. And then to find out she's the lead singer of Basement Jaxx, I was like, you know what? This, vocally she was stunning.
Yes.
But also to add the comic timing and the performance level with that, it was just brilliant.
And another performer that I thought stood out, that was slightly, I wouldn't say underused, but was kept in the production, kept back a little, which was vital, secretly milling about in the first act as an off and on character, was Tracy, played by Helen Colby.
Yeah, definitely.
The delivery person. And she was just hilarious. Each time she came in, she was delivering goods, and it gave me she were giving me very much a dinner ladies vibes of
definitely.
I've sat on these bloomers, do you want them?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
12 hours away.
And that familiarity really helps with this sort of production, because you need the references for comedies and things that it just feels it's comforting, but it's a character that you know you're going to laugh at or find funny because of what she talks about, or she's very matter of fact, very
down to earth.
This is what it is. I'll show my wares right in front of you.
Yeah. So she always lifted up. Not that it needed lifting up, but she gave that added sparkle to each scene she was in, because you knew, even though you've seen her just walk in with a cage or a tray of something, you know that she's going to be delivering these really funny one-liners or something.
Or getting emotional over a tray of semi-skimmed milk, as you do.
Some good lines there, good comedy lines.
It's like Flinty Williams as Patricia. It was that supervisor boss that everybody knows, that person that cuts through the happiness that just brings back people back to order, and just likes the sound of her own voice. But
we also had some great roles for the men as well.
Definitely.
Gary Milner as Gareth, who was Rebecca Locke as Kaz's husband. He performed the typical villain of the play quite good. The plot B villain, I should say, wasn't the overall arching villain. That was played by another character, Edward Baker Julie as Max, but this Gareth character, he was just someone you know of, you kind of put up with their jokes, their humour, but he turned out to be not a very nice person, but he played that really well.
He portrayed the typical dad, or the typical, I know he wasn't a dad, but he was the typical almost hapless husband a little bit, where he made some stupid decisions and didn't necessarily tell the truth all the time.
Yeah.
And then we had Dan Partridge.
Yes, he was good as well. He was a nice little. He was a tease for Nita, wasn't he?
He was Nita's love interest, but he played that almost ditzy man that doesn't know he's good looking and almost misses the mark, but Nita swoons. So and it was nice to. He played it really well, and especially in the dream sequence, that was just funny.
Yes. Max is the overall villain of the story. Spoilers.
Yeah, no giveaways.
He's one that Patricia's been having an affair with, and he, without actually spoiling the show for you, he turns out to be he is the villain. So that is a spoiler. But he played that role really well. You saw him go from really nice hapless person who gets on the good side of Kaz, and then try and uses her, manipulates her, and then once he's got what he wants, he turns like super villain in an instant.
Yeah, definitely the manipulator and the twister of tales, shall we say?
Yeah, and he must have enjoyed that role.
Yeah, he must have. It was very panto villain.
Yes, and John Stacey as Leslie, the guy who actually broke up with Vel. But you saw him throughout the play as different. Yeah, he was getting different jobs anyway, so he was support there. But he did a really good job.
Yeah, even as Cupid when he was in the dream sequence. You know?
Yes, yeah. Now moving on to the props and the costume. The staging props were very much everyday items you'd find in a typical supermarket. They even had, I wouldn't know if it was fresh fruit and veg, but they certainly had those in appearance in one particular scene. Everything else was props that you could see in a supermarket that was big, bulky, like toilet rolls. Yeah. They were quick to use, or egg boxes, probably empty. There wasn't necessarily much else that they interacted with when buying anything. I can't think.
No, but what I would say is from a props perspective, they had a lot of different aisles brought out with different items on the shelves. So 1 minute when it was the sort of Valentine's Day scene, you got a whole shelving unit covered in Valentine's Day products. Then you got a 2 shelves full of, like you say, fruit and veg. Then there was a freezer section. Then there was this. So they to make the stage feel bigger, they brought different items out for different scenes. So you felt like the shop was moving around quite a lot. You didn't feel like it was just the same things being brought out every time.
Yeah, and to add to that, they also had shopping baskets and trolleys. These were things they could dance in. Yeah. Well, the shopping trolleys were. They must have danced with the baskets, they would have done, surely.
Yeah, they did do some of it.
The cage from Tracy, when she brought in the cage and the bread baskets and the golden pineapple.
Yeah, but then
I'm trying to think of the props.
Then there was times when they spun the actual shopping the shelves round. There was posters on the back that were like advertising posters. So there was no stone unturned in this production. Whenever they moved something around or spun it round, nothing was missed. So I did notice quite a lot of that across the production, because it's very easy to think, well, we'll just turn it round, but we don't need to put anything on the back. But if you put something on the back, it just enhances that part of the scene, because you feel like, oh, I've gone down this aisle and they're just trying to plug these items to sell, or they're on sale. And then a little thing like that, then they used the same approach for the staff room, which behind the freezer section was basically the staff board and a couple of hooks and a water butt and it just took you to the next room without changing the set massively, you know. And I thought that was done really well. The other thing is with this production, no prop was left unturned, and something I talk about over the time we've been doing this. If it's not used, you don't need it. And this is a fine example of every prop got the hands lifted, something got picked up, passed to somebody else. Even to the point of when Robbie hid in the cage as a damsel in distress, they kicked the box out that had got sanitary products in to one side, and you thought, oh, that's not going to get used. Well, Robbie hides under the box, puts the box on, and the sanitary products go everywhere all across the stage. Now, that's for me, is perfect prop use, where it looked like it was being discarded, but actually it was the next part of the scene to mean that then Nita had got something to pick up while she was delivering dialogue. So it was all part of the sort of setup But it was fine prop use, really. And I think we saw that quite a lot. Apart from one scene that I'll let Stephen talk about.
No, because I don't know what you're on about.
Deeper Shade of Blue.
Oh, yes. Well, that musical number. So they had all these, the 5, 6, 7, 8 cashish shopping
Aisles,
not aisles, but the actual registers, the conveyor belts. And they had the customers coming in, because this is when they've just realised, I think, that Kaz has
basically sold the
them
shop,
out.
basically sold the entire
gave them away.
place.
So they're all not speaking to her, and they're potentially going to lose their jobs. And we had these customers come in with shopping trolleys, and all with toilet rolls in.
First, one tin of beans was first. Then it was toilet rolls. They had different things every time they appeared.
No, when they went to the checkout.
Yeah, then they went off and came back again with 3 different other people, and they did the same again with one item. But it was still one item.
Yeah, they didn't really get much, did they?
Well, they had a whole shopping trolley.
Yeah.
And one item.
Just for the one item.
And they danced with the toilet rolls around the head.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments with shopping trolleys where, yes, you need to show them, but it was more about the setup of them taking them away and stacking them by Ben, pulling them all together to wheel them off. That it was
they
like
could have just done that with the basket.
Yeah, but it's almost like they thought we need to get them on somehow. So what do? We'll bring one item in the shopping trolley in with them, and I think if it'd have been better if they'd have, because from a perspective as if you're sat on the back row, it's not funny because you can't see the item. You can just see a packet of something. If there were bigger items, it may have translated a bit differently.
Yeah.
But it just felt off because it was a tiny product.
Well, they probably should have just mixed them up. So one had a trolley which had quite a few bits in, and the others had baskets, or some just stood there waiting for a customer because they had none.
Yeah, I think
they could have done it a different way round. So then whoever's not singing or participating much,
yeah, exactly,
could actually look like they're doing more than just scanning a toilet roll.
Yeah, I think for me this was the only scene that it felt like they thought too much about, that they wanted to show the stereotypical thing of pulling the trolleys together and wheeling them off together like you do in the car park, and it was almost like they wanted to show that, but they didn't know how to get there.
Which you'd actually have a strap to strap them all together.
You would have, and
to move them. And also, if you've ever been in home bars or whatever, there's only ever one till on. You've got to have a huge queue before they open up a second till. Never mind having all 4 on where you managed to get to the till properly.
I mean, to make it funnier, you could have just had that many trolleys that it'd have took a whole scene to get them from one side of the stage to another. Yeah. That would have been funnier, but this just felt a bit like, oh, we've got to do it somehow, but we're obsessed with this, but we need to. It just.
Or they could have made it even funnier, where they've all got the 4 tills open, and each in turn put their close sign up, so each customer had to go to Kaz at the front.
Yeah. And
so she had to do all the work.
That would have worked really well.
Yeah.
And they could have all had blue signs that said closed. You know, it's just like. So, I think that could have done with some work, because that would have been funnier. And still fit with the song. It felt sparse. It felt
like the trolley empty.
Yeah, it did, because and you wouldn't take a trolley if you're just going to have one item. in general,
I mean,
you wouldn't even have a basket. You wouldn't even have a basket.
They started off with good intent. I'm going to have a trolley full, but then they saw the prices and saw the quality and thought, actually, I'll just stick to the bog roll.
So it wasn't best. There weren't better best bargains.
No, there weren't. They should have gone to the hoedown.
But no, overall, I mean, the props. I mean, like you just said with the hoedown, that
half price hoedown.
The half price hoedown was brilliant, because there was loads of steps references in that whole section, even down to the discount cards and the things that were flying around and the signs that they were holding up and stuff like that.
All these additional props. It links into the theme and the overall message.
Yeah, and now, I mean, I'm really disappointed that I want a real life half price hoedown. They talk about Black Friday, but I'd prefer a half price hoedown.
Yeah, definitely.
So Asda, if you're listening,
incidentally, if you've ever listened to, now that's what I call a musical, the podcast,
Yeah.
if you manage to get through those 2 hours, this is how you do a musical. And
Exactly.
you reference everything. You have everything linking.
Yeah,
into...
exactly.
So let's talk about the costume and stuff. Do you remember them?
It was a production of tabards.
It was.
In varying different designs, and
Yes.
I was all here for it. It
Yes.
was like Mrs. Overall on acid.
You're here and now for it.
I'm here and now for it. Yeah, it's Mrs. Overalls on acid, basically.
Yeah.
Because you'd got yellow ones with bananas on them for one day. Then you'd got love hearts for the, bright, like really silvery love hearts. It just evolved every time, It depends. They must have had a different. I mean, it'd be fun to work in the store because they must have like a big line of different tabards lining up.
It's a party shop, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a party shop.
I don't think you'd ever.
Do you
been bored.
remember River Medway's costume? Because that was the most
Yes,
extravagant.
it was, but it also I didn't realise until afterwards that it's actually very similar to Claire's deeper shade of blue costume.
Oh, is it?
The ponytail's the same.
Ah.
So they actually created it to link with that look, to actually have a direct like undertone
Yes,
link
yeah.
to one of the previous looks that Claire did.
See, when you knit all these little pieces together, it makes the end result more substantial.
Really does, yeah. It does, because then you start seeing that actually there's more to the way it's been constructed, and that they've been involved as well. And I think that's been quite important. I think when you see the detail, a thing that we talked about with the props, I think most of the props were branded with links to steps. So a lot of the things in the background were all on the stage that had got, even actually before we talk more about costume, talking about props.
Oh, we were talking about costumes.
Yeah, but I've forgot about the props.
Oh.
The dustbin in the backyard.
Oh, yes.
And you got a big pink bin that you'd see at any supermarket.
It's a red one.
It was pink.
It was red.
It's pink.
Red.
It's pink.
Red.
It was pink.
Red.
It's pink. It's bloody pink and blue. The whole set's pink and blue.
Wow. I'll take that back. So you were talking about the pink bin.
Yeah, the pink bin. What was funny about it, took me a while, because I was like, why does it say Trash Eddie on it? And I was like, I still couldn't get it.
I was looking at that, thinking Trash Eddie, and I was trying to think of the Jane Austen bin.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was thinking back to that, and I was thinking, what was that one called? And so I didn't even reference it.
No.
I didn't even think it would be anything.
And then
I was just thinking, he's the one in Jane Austen. Was that a Trash Eddie as well?
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was just a brand that they'd just found one. And then, then I said it faster. And it said Trash Eddie. I was like, oh, God, I've been got here. But that's the attention to detail, because also on the back of the graffiti on the wall was like lyrics to the songs.
Yeah.
So they'd used like little bits in the set that just linked it to the whole Steps universe, as it were. Well, I suppose what we can finish off with the costume is, it was very dinner ladies, wasn't it? Let's face it.
Of sorts, the humour was, but I think it just generalised to give them a uniform.
Yeah.
Of a tabard thing for home bargains. I mean, you wouldn't get that in like Asda or Morrison's.
No, and it was like, but it wasn't just that. It was a tabard with a gilet, then with a they had layers. They had layers going off, and they all had lanyards. They all had, and they were very much.
It's quite good though, because you actually gave. It actually gave a sense of them working for this company, this small, homegrown, very familiarised company. That you just, I'd be quite happy to work there, to be honest.
And not just that, I think...
I didn't say it was just that.
No, but...
You always say that.
I think as well, with this, what you see with a lot of bargain shops or this style of superstore it is quite garish. It is quite bright and standoutish. So it stands out on a high street, so you remember it. So they did go down that way. But also with the supporting cast, when they weren't shoppers, they were very much in blue attire, or they were like in different shades of blue.
Yeah.
But they just complemented the set. So like the scene where they were outside with the umbrellas and it was raining and it's thunder and lightning, they all had umbrellas that were blue. They all had costume that was basically different blue tones, so that when the main 3 cast members were all wearing pink tabards, they just jumped out of the stage as well. So there was a lot of that going off as well.
Yeah.
So. Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the tech is this?
So on the technical production, what stood out for you during this one? Because we could probably talk about the live band as well.
Yeah, definitely.
In this little section.
I think one thing I would say is this was...
just the one thing.
Just the one thing. Actually, I'm not going to say one thing. I might say a few more. The whole aesthetic really was supported by all the shelving that we saw as the tabs at the side and the back wall were all filled with LEDs. So basically... no, it's not basically. So when they had any colour changes or little things that happened on stage, it was all supported by the lights changing in all of these shelves around around the sides. So a little thing like when we did Scared of the Dark, they had a lot of lightning effects when they were by the pier, and it was just basically the lightning was done really well because it was just flashes within these shelves, but it was just enough to support that change of location. There was also
and musical numbers,
musical
as well.
numbers as
like Deep Shade of Blue. They had the blue, didn't they?
Yeah,
and
it was all. But it just became full on rainbow, full on. It was just it added
full
that,
on rainbow. No,
full on rainbow
for this show, really.
Yeah, and I think that then just makes it feel more like a Steps concert because it's all colourful and all
but it's
full
all
of
coherent
life.
to the musical numbers.
Yeah,
and
it is
the whole thing as a package.
Yeah, and but it doesn't detract from the stage. It enhanced it. And there was another little nice moment where when Kaz sent the text from her phone to Max when she shouldn't have done it. The whole stage wiped with white from her side to the other side of the stage, and
I thought that was quite clever.
Really clever because all it did was it
was a visual
white
cue.
light moving.
Yeah, it was a visual cue to let you know that it'd been sent.
Gone from one side of the stage to the other, and it just looked really, really nice.
See, they didn't have to do that.
No,
you don't need to do that.
No.
However, that's the extra little detail you do as a technical wizard.
It's when you're giving
putting these little things in. What can we do here?
Yeah, exactly. And how can you do it and set it up to do that?
Because I suppose when you come from the technical aspect of it, it's like, how can I tell this story?
Yeah,
because I haven't got the lyrics or the dialogue. How can I tell this action?
Yeah,
through technical.
Yeah, exactly.
And
trust that it's going to look good and work because some things just don't work and they need a lot of practice. So they've obviously worked well as a complete creative team to do this. So they did those moments. I mean, you can't forget the washing machines.
Well, exactly.
Because we've got washing machines with mirror balls on for Amanda Smoocher's performance in the freezer section.
Yes, that was the Chain Reaction song. That was.
Yeah, it was, and I thought that was really good because all you'd simply got is LEDs within the washing machine fronts with a mirror ball in there. So, as you do in life.
And we've seen washing machines been done before on My Beautiful Laundrette, and they didn't come across quite.
No, this was stronger.
Yeah,
it is nice to see it when they get a technical relationship right when it becomes part of the production, and it blended really well. I didn't feel like there was a disconnect. That they'd not forgot about anything really, and they'd almost gave it the Steps treatment. Really, it felt like it was a Steps concert because you got a 10-minute mega mix at the end of it, but it felt the same level as what you'd see on stage when they're performing. So you got that whole feel of
a show.
Yeah, and the other thing that we had was, which was also done really well, was they only had one video screen that dropped down from above to show basically signage for the shop and for the actual superstore. But it actually became so much more. It became the gates announcements for the scene when it's in the airport. It became, You know, it just added that level of narration that you needed to know where you were in a different place, or like when it was Kaz's birthday. You know, you knew that it was Kaz's birthday, or 6 months later, you got those little moments just said to you, but they didn't overuse that. It was just brought in when it needed to. And you had just the look of strip lights that dropped down from above as well to just lower the stage enough to make you feel like, right, we're in the shop now. It was just enough to bring into that world. Mm-hmm. Sound-wise, overall, it was good.
Yes.
There was just a couple of moments where I think it was Nita and Robbie, where their mics didn't instantly start when they're delivering some dialogue.
Yes, I felt that. I felt that sometimes when they were singing, particularly in the bit where Robbie's in the cage, where his voice just lowered
a bit too much.
It just came some. There was.
I think also
an issue there.
Robbie, when he started singing Deep Shade of Blue as well, it was quieter at that point, and that didn't help, right? Because he opens that. So, but other than that, I mean, nothing was off when it came to the main performances and the ensemble pieces and the mic pickups for the whole thing, and the final performance at the end. It all worked really well. So. I don't think I noticed anything that went wrong as such, but I think
nothing really went technically wrong at all.
And I didn't see any set not being able to be taken off or put back on, or then there was a lot flying around. So yeah, I didn't see any of that get in the way. But no, it's good.
And now it's time for
Rewind, Rewatch.
Rewind, Rewatch. Then what would you rewind and watch again?
Well, it's quite a difficult thing to decide, I did see it again last night, so I think I might have to wait now till next September to rewatch it again. But no, honestly, I'd watch it all again. It was just a big bit of fun. What about you?
I'd watch it all again, but the particular favourite songs, I suppose we ought to just cover in this. Mine would be Last Thing on My Mind. That was a good one to watch.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the 5, 6, 7, 8 hoedown.
Yeah.
That was great. And Chain Reaction was just brilliant, that was, how they did that.
Yeah, and I'd also... I liked Heartbeat, and I also like It's the Way You Make Me Feel, because I like the way they changed the songs a little bit too.
Oh yeah, with that Tracy.
With Tracy. So yeah, and so yeah, I'd like to say the same ones as you, but I'd also add those ones in as well, because I just felt that they just were silly, but in a good way. Oh, and Something in Your Eyes. If you're gonna fall in love, fall into the back of a bin full of bin juice. That's
juice.
Then
into the bin juice.
Fall into the bin juice, and then it's a match made in heaven. If you're going to exit stage, you exit stage in the back of a bin.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say,
call this a show.
I hoped that this musical would live up to the sort of legacy of Steps, and I feel that because everybody was involved and knew that it needed to be treated well, they did a great job with it and churned out something that actually is faithful to the whole universe of Steps, shall we say. So yeah, no, great job.
For me, Here and Now is an exciting musical, and I think it just exudes camp and fun and entertainment in every little aspect of it. Every scene is just something that shines on stage. The songs just stand out. You're familiar with them, but they deliver it in such a different way that it still makes sense, but it's new. It's a new take on things, and it's exciting. And the storyline in itself, whilst simple, every plot point gets tied up. Everything just gets done nice and neatly. And as we've said before, everything's cohesive. It all makes sense. It's all knitted well together. There's nothing random, or there's no plot lines that are going off on one, and there's things that just don't make sense. This does make sense. And for me, this is just one of the best musicals I've seen this year. Scores then please, Richard, for Here and Now, the musical. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being Paradise is Found and 1 being One for Sorrow. What's it going to be?
Well, it can only be a 10. I can't say any more.
Because 1 would be a tragedy.
Because it could be a 5, it could be a 6, it could be a 7, it could be an 8, it could be a 9, but no, it's definitely a 10.
Yes, and it's 10 for me as well. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
It's a standing ovation, of course it is, because I gave it 4 times.
No, it's a standing ovation from me. So there we are. That's our discussion of Here and Now. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
And opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes. That's slightly different.
That was nearly a tragedy.
Hey.
If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of
Upstage, Downstage.
We saw this production at Alexandra Theatre. I want to say Palace. Happiness is only a heartbeat away with Here and Now, the hilarious and heartwarming new musical based on the songs of the multi-million selling based on the songs of the multi-million selling pop phenomenon. I'll say group now. Based on the songs of the multi-million selling pop phenomenon. Phenomenon. This brand new musical. It doesn't sound right when I go. It's like too bassy.
Welcome to Seaside Stoop. Well, no, that's empty. Stop that. Welcome to Seaside Superstore. Oh God, that's hard working on. But when Kaz discovers the shelves are stocked with lies and betrayal, the summer of love she.
Shall
I do it again?
I think you should.
Yeah. Welcome to Seaside Superstore. Superstore. Welcome to Seaside Superstore.
Superstore?
But when Kaz discovers the vibe is have they lost their chance of go
back to but when Kaz discovers.
Yeah. But when Kaz discovers the shelves are stocked with lies and betrayal, the summer of love she and her friends
dreamed of.
Yeah, have. I'm putting words in.
Yes.
I mean, who doesn't love a bargain basement?
Do you want to say that again?
Don't get it out. I'm trying to do all the B's.
Who doesn't love a best bargain?
Who doesn't love it?
Oh no, what was it? Best bargain? No.
Better best bargain.
Better best bargains. Who doesn't love a better best bargain?
Better best bargains. Well, no, they want treadmills. No, what am I on about? And you've got 4 tills. I'm rattling the
conveyor belts.
I can breathe more easily now.
Oh, that would be good for the listening viewers.
Okay, I mean, yeah.
They're listening to it thinking,
Yeah.
Breathe.
Oh, okay. Line number 1, please.
No, we don't have one. It's 5, 6,
Oh, I
7,
don't
8.
think there was a meat counter here. We didn't have a meat counter.
There's plenty of meat on the counter.
Oh, there was. Yes, I mean, yeah. it was sprawling about, wasn't it?
Thighs to your eyes.
Well, yeah, that was in the freezer section.
Yeah, so they all...
They wanted to get to their summer of love, basically.
Yeah, so they all made this... Here, aren't they? See, it's at Halls. It's at Halls.
It's done it.
So they all want.
Fucking hell. It's literally at the back of my throat.
Oh, the acting were brilliant.
Oh, and them actors, they did alright, they
Them
did.
things on stage that actually did it.
Them ones that
They're
moved
alright,
about a
aren't
bit.
they?
I might have a menthol just to get something moving. Take a chance on a happy ending. Let's turn the page and stop pretending.